Hi, I'm Lee.
And I'm Brandon.
And this is That's What He Said, the show where two self-proclaimed football geniuses tell you how it is and how it was.
This past weekend in the SEC, obviously some big games that went down. The two 11 o'clock games. First of all, Florida makes the trip north to Vanderbilt. A game that did not start the way I think anybody would have thought, including Vanderbilt fans. Vanderbilt grabs an early 21-3 lead. Florida makes a miraculous comeback in the second half. We'll talk about some things that happened during that game. Florida escapes Nashville with a 37-27 victory. Thoughts on the game?
Boy, just that I was pulling for Vandy, and I was thinking this could happen. This could happen because there was another upset that was in the making for the day.
Brewing.
And I was thinking, why not? And, you think, well, Florida's got a new coach. Maybe Vandy's going to pull it out. But Vandy, in typical Vandy fashion, let me down. And to Florida, no less. I've seen Vandy let me down to Florida a few times. But it was exciting there for 3 quarters.
So again, Vandy gets the 21-3 lead early throughout the first half. Florida opening drive, takes it right down the field, tip ball down on the goal line. Vanderbilt intercepts it. Okay. Obviously it hurts not to get points right there. But then Vanderbilt goes the length of the field. Vandy goes 97 yards. Cashes in, 7-0. Okay. Florida goes 3 and out after that. Vanderbilt then with I believe about a 70-yard screen pass to Keyshawn Vaughn. That man is fast.
Mm-hmm.
That man is fast. He's elusive, made some guys miss. 14-0. Okay, at some point we know Florida's going to get back in this. Florida then fumbles. Vanderbilt gets it 21-0. What in the world is going on? Then 21-3. Right before halftime, Florida is receiving a punt and an illegal targeting penalty against a defenseless receiver. This went on for about 5 to 10 minutes worth, but to make a long story short, a Vanderbilt player gets hit illegally, and he's down on the turf for a while. Derek Mason takes it upon himself to come across the field to check on his players, and at that time, he and Todd Grantham, one of the coordinators over at Florida, get into a very heated discussion. Jawing back and forth and everything. Then Dan Mullen gets wind of it. The bench for Florida clears. Derek Mason turns around, walks away. At that point, Vandy's players are on the field. I turned and said it right then and there. I said, you don't want to piss Florida off. And what happened? Said Florida would come back and win this game, and they responded. They were able to get 3 points on the board right before halftime, so 21-6. They received the ball first in the second half, and then Florida slowly just started chipping away. Mullen's offense, Felipe Franks, Van Jefferson, a very big game. Florida a fake punt in this game, pulling out all the stops to have to come back from a 21-3 deficit. And Florida outscores them 34-3 in the second half. Wow.
Now, does this concern you for Florida from both a defensive standpoint and an offensive standpoint in the first half, and that they let Vandy move the ball all over them? Of course, there were some big plays, which that can just take one zig when they should have zagged. But in terms of offensive production against them and poor offensive production against Vanderbilt in the first half, do you see concern for Florida, or do you say, well, the way that they came back in the second half and could do everything right and only gave up 1 touchdown, does that say, well, okay, it was just a little bit of a fluke in the first half, and that shows me a strong, resilient Florida who can come back?
Right. I think it's more of Florida just being a resilient bunch coming back in the second half. There's plenty of teams that we've watched in college football over the years that just don't get off to the fast start. Being a UT fan, the 2016 team that we had when we started out 5-0 on the year, we were down at halftime in every one of those games. And just having the ability to make adjustments and come back in the second half and just flat out outscore your opponents. Florida, I don't worry a whole lot about. Florida knows what Florida has, and when you turn the ball over twice in the first half, like Florida did, and you start, you got a team at home. home crowd and all that, even though Vanderbilt, not the biggest home crowd, but still. Good teams will find a way to turn turnovers into points, and Vanderbilt didn't just settle for 3; they cashed in for 6 both times. So obviously, give credit to Vanderbilt showing up ready to go in this game. Florida maybe coming out a little bit flat, but finding a way to get it done in the second half, and I think that's the encouraging thing.
And that's probably the takeaway, is that Florida was able to come down from a big deficit against an SEC team that's a solid team. Vanderbilt's a solid team. It's not like they did it against an NCAA team or something. I mean, this is a team with legitimate talent who's had some good wins this year and played tough. So I agree. I think it shows some resilience for Florida, and it's a positive if you're a Gator.
I think Florida catching the bye week for them at this week too is probably the best thing for them. That sets up not next weekend, but the weekend after that, the annual cocktail party with Georgia down in Jacksonville. That's got SEC implications all over the place.
With Georgia reeling.
With Georgia reeling, it's kind of all square right now. Believe it or not, Kentucky's still in the mix. So obviously it's both teams, both Florida and Georgia, with a bye this next week, and both teams looking to get better, and should be a good one in 2 weeks for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
So the other 11 o'clock game, the Tennessee Volunteers head down to the plains of Jordan-Hare Stadium with Auburn and Gus Malzahn. Wow, is all I know how to say. Now, I will start out right now. Memory serves me correctly. An Alabama fan who, it's not me, so it must be him. He said, with all the things going on with Jeremy Pruitt, with Gus Malzahn, Auburn slow start, Auburn not being able to figure some things, the exact words were, Tennessee beats Auburn. And my answer to that was just wow. I definitely could see it happening. Tennessee ends up with a 30-24 win against a ranked Auburn team. Tennessee's first win of an SEC school since 2016. First win since an SEC West team since 2010. And I'm going to see how well you might know this. This is the first time they've beaten an SEC team on the road since 2007. Can you guess who that team was?
In 2007, on the road. I'm going to guess Mississippi State.
That is correct. Starkville, Mississippi, Eric Ainge, senior year, 11 years since they've won an SEC West game on the road. Auburn gets the ball first in this game. Auburn goes right down the field, 58 yards rushing on the ground in that opening drive. An interesting stat, the final 10 drives that Auburn has on the day, Tennessee's defense holds Auburn to 68 yards rushing the next 10 possessions. That's a stat in itself. Obviously, Auburn came out looking to put the rumors and the constant, negative talk about Auburn can't get started, Auburn's having trouble on offense and everything. They went right down the field, punched it in very, very quickly. Tennessee, though, coming right back down the field, answering with a field goal. Watching the game as a Tennessee fan, when you saw the way they came out offensively, obviously you're very excited. It makes you think, well, this team's kind of here to play today. That was kind of the story in the whole first half, it seemed. Tennessee continually found ways to get to Jarrett Stidham, the quarterback for Auburn, make ball disruptions there, and continually be able to move the chains on third down. Tennessee threw the air a lot. Jarrett Garantano, 21 of 32 in this game, over 300 yards. By far his best game as a Tennessee Vol. Tennessee, though, way too predictable on first down. It was going to be a run, and it was going to be a run for negative yardage, mostly on every first down. And then how many third downs did Tennessee throw a fade up to these great receivers that we've talked about? And finally, they're letting these guys make plays, extending the chains, extending the drives, and Tennessee able to cash it in. 17-13 at halftime. You like where you are there. Tennessee gets it in the first half, or the start of the second half, start moving the ball downfield again. Just offensively, they seemed in tune from about the second quarter on. Yeah,
and this is a game where you talk about every player, every man doing his job. That's what I saw at Tennessee.
Well, Jeremy Pruitt talks a lot, and you hear his post game, you hear his weekly press conferences. He likes to base things on all 11 players he likes to base things on the number of plays. All right, what's his definition of the number of plays? Number of plays in his mind is when all 11 players do everything right for that play. And when you do that, you've got a chance to have some success. Been very low percentage thus far of actual plays where all 11 players are doing exactly what they're supposed to. That number increased significantly Saturday.
Oh yeah, you had 11 men. It seemed like 12 men. You had 11 men doing their job on every play, and I think that was maybe even the motto that they had. We're just going to go out there. We're going to take this one play at a time, and we're all going to do our job on each play. If that wasn't their motto, it can be looking back on it. That can be the summary of the game. So it was really fun to watch. I love to see a David and Goliath moment where David wins, and I love to pick it beforehand. It's a lot of fun to watch. Tennessee should just be on cloud nine because those guys, they played great. It's not like they got a lot of luck. They just did a lot of things right.
I will say, a couple of bounces that haven't gone Tennessee's way, throughout the year and everything. You go back to the Georgia game, the 3 fumbles that just bounce right back to the Georgia players. Tennessee did get a couple of bounces there with the fumble that turned into the touchdown. But for the most part, you saw a defense that when Stidham dropped back to throw on a lot of downs, there was a white jersey right there waiting to bat it away or try to create a disruption. Now, several of the Auburn receivers, made several fine catches, but we hadn't seen that as much. So is it Tennessee's just getting better defensively, or was Auburn maybe down a little bit and they looked to try to play a little bit more man and everything? Because they never really got beat deep in this game. So I look at that as the defense is getting a little bit bigger. Tennessee's defense does take a hit, losing Jonathan Kongbo for the rest of the year with a torn ACL. You lose experience, you lose reps and everything there. You lose a little bit of depth to an already young team, already young defense. But nevertheless, you take nothing away from Jeremy Pruitt and his bunch. This is the first time in a long time that you've seen a Tennessee team come off of a bye week and really have a game plan set up and execute that game plan and just believe in it for all 4 quarters. And I couldn't be more happy to be a UT fan right now. I love what Jeremy Pruitt's starting. This weekend is going to be, obviously a tough test. And things I've heard all week, how excited the players are for this. This being a great rival with Tennessee and Alabama and everything. Who's going to be smoking the stogies at the end of the game? That's always been a big thing. But just the fact that, Tennessee coming off a lot of momentum, that's definitely something to build on.
Yeah, definitely. And, another thing about Auburn and just kind of what I had said last week was I felt like Auburn was depressed. They were all down. They weren't really focused. And Tennessee's hungry. It's a great combination if you're an outside neutral observer or if it's your team who's hungry. And I kind of wonder what Auburn practices are going to be like or have been like so far this week.
What the meeting rooms have been like. Mm-hmm.
Maybe more of the same. So Auburn's got to find a way out of this funk or we're going to see more of that because you got to get these players having some motivation, playing for something, playing for pride, because at the moment it sure didn't seem like they had a lot to play for, and they were whipped and out-hustled, and that's what happened.
So again, Tennessee gets its first SEC win of the season, takes them to 3-3 now. Moving on, Georgia, number 2 in the country, Georgia heading to Baton Rouge to take on LSU.
I really would have wished I would have picked with my gut.
Wow.
I wish I would have picked with my gut.
I'm right there with you.
Instead of the numbers.
LSU, I'm not comparing them to Tennessee, but a team that really ought to prove something. Rough loss the week before against Florida in the Swamp, a game they still feel like they should have won. How does LSU respond hosting the number 2 team in the country? We've talked a good bit about Georgia on this team. I still think they're a fine team. Not as good as they were last year at this point, and maybe overall. But at the same time, they know where Atlanta is too. They found a way to be there at the end of the year every year. It's going to be interesting now that Kentucky, Florida, Georgia, all with 1 loss in the SEC and everything. Well, Kentucky with 2, but still Kentucky with the win over Florida and still owning a possible tiebreaker there. What a race that we have right now in the middle of the year. I like the fact that it's not just a runaway at this point. Georgia got to find a way to circle the wagons.
Yeah, and the other thing is, LSU has been the Rodney Dangerfield of maybe the NCAA in terms of they get no respect. The whole year everybody's downplaying LSU. You don't have a quarterback. Your depth is in question.
Right.
Your coach is in question. They have some big wins. Well, we're not gonna say anything good yet. We're just gonna kind of wait and see. They get a loss. Aha! See, LSU's not what we thought. Everybody's talking up Georgia. They mop the field, if you can mop a field, with Georgia, and it wasn't even a game.
So I want to throw a wrench into it. So several weeks ago, LSU gets the big win at Auburn. Is that big of a win now?
That's a good question. Maybe it's not, or maybe Auburn was better then, and now they're just not used to being in the toilet this way, and they're depressed. I've seen good teams get depressed and not come out of it when they should have. I'm thinking of an Alabama team, as a matter of fact, under Mike Dubose, a very talented team.
Mike Dubose
took an early loss and never could psychologically recover.
Right.
And Auburn could be that, so it could have been a big win. But at the same time, there's an argument for it not being a big win. But I can tell you this, beating Georgia the way they did, that should be a big win, because Georgia's a very talented team. Vander Holyfield's son's an amazing tailback, and the way that they...
Elijah
Holyfield. He was a factor, but they were able to handle him. He was not a game changer as he has been before. So Georgia's got to be a big one for LSU. And I think going forward, people better start respecting LSU, because they've had one slip up. And the other times they have just been incredible.
Mm-hmm. Georgia offensively, not what we've seen in everything. Jake Fromm, just a little over 200 yards passing. 2 big interceptions, though. DeAndre Swift, running back for Georgia, held under 100 yards. Burrow, the quarterback for LSU, 15 to 30, 50% on the day. 200 yards. The running game almost near 200 yards as well. Pretty balanced run versus pass there. LSU though. As we said, LSU at home. What a tough place to already play.
And Coach Orgeron, I think that the hot seat's not hot. I think he's just got a seat now, and I think he has earned a lot of respect. My question on this, we're going to parallel back just a little. We're going to move back just a step. Do you think Gus Malzahn is on the hot seat now?
I don't. I've heard that from several people this week, several Auburn fans that I just happen to work with and whatnot, just through conversation. A lot of people, jump the gun, jump to conclusions about things. You're forgetting about a coach that 1 year ago beat the number one team in the country twice.
Right.
And made it to
two different teams.
Made it to Atlanta. Beat number one Alabama. Beat number one Georgia earlier in the year, within just a couple of weeks of each other. Not an easy task in order to do that. Auburn's offense, I'll say it like this: Auburn's offense goes if Auburn's got a 1,000-yard runner. They don't have that this year. Kerryon Johnson, the last 3 years at Auburn, what a stud he ended up being. Auburn don't have that this year. Okay, everything's centered through that running game. When they can't get that running game going, it's hard for them to do what they like to do. That's snap the ball quick, eat away yards, and have second and manageable, third and very short, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think he's on the hot seat. They got to find some balance. They got to find a way to get off the field on defense. Too many times Tennessee can convert in third downs, not just third downs, but third and long. And as a defensive coordinator, that'll drive you crazy. Kevin Steele, the defensive coordinator at Auburn, former Tennessee player, which is the irony in that. But still, I think they're in fine shape offensively, defensively. Get back to fundamentals. Get back to doing what you do and do it well. And I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think that this highlights how difficult it is to play not just NCAA at the highest level, but in the SEC.
Agreed.
It's just so difficult to be able to put the right talent on the field. And even if you've got a proven coach and you've got a talented team, things can just go wrong. Timing can be off. The other team's not going to roll over. And I think Gus Malzahn is just simply human. And I think he faced a Tennessee team that was hustling. But we were talking about LSU and Georgia. So Orgeron, there was talk of the hot seat. I think that's eliminated.
That's gone the rest of this year.
And I think that he should be, the the rest of the year, if it's a reflection of what's happened so far, you think he could be an SEC Coach of the Year?
It's possible. Obviously, they've got one really big game left on the schedule. Something were to happen in that game, I think you definitely have to look at it. But as far as I'm concerned, the little man down in Tuscaloosa is probably going to be the Coach of the Year. Just continuously being able to
Dominate.
Just dominate. That's the best way to say it. I mean, over prepare. If anything somebody might try, they've got a plan for it. Obviously a good sign. But again, Georgia will get back to fundamentals. Kirby Smart will right the ship. Mel Tucker, the defensive coordinator, will figure out things. And here in this off week again. And I think, we're in store for a great game in 2 weeks between Georgia and Florida down in Jacksonville. Moving on, Texas A&M heads to Williams-Brice Stadium to take on South Carolina and the Gamecocks. This game, very close game, as we both predicted that it would be. Texas A&M ekes out a 26-23 victory. What'd you like?
I like that I picked right. That's probably the first thing I liked.
The surprising thing, South Carolina's defense in this game. Kellen Mond throws for 350-something yards. I mean, we hadn't seen a team really do that all year. You could look back at the Georgia game, but, there were several defensive plays in that game. But, Travion Williams, a touchdown. Kellen Mond, a touchdown through the air and everything. But 350 yards.
Yeah, South Carolina struggled against the pass. To me, that summarizes a lot of the game. They could not get there. They were not in the right spots. They weren't even in good position. They weren't in good fundamental position. There were a lot of passes that were caught where the defensive player was out of position. Looked like he was a freshman. So disappointing for South Carolina, but kind of like I thought it'd play out. Jimbo Fisher had his guys prepared, and they executed the plan, and didn't seem like there was much hiccuping going on. Mm-hmm. Occasionally maybe, but I never felt like there was much doubt, even though it was close some of the time. I felt like A&M had the upper hand,
right,
and that they could move the ball when they needed to. So it was a good game to watch, unless you're a South Carolina fan. I was watching the game with a South Carolina fan, and he was not a happy camper.
Yes, and I know exactly who you're talking about. Jake Bentley, back in his first game, just below 50% completions for the game. Did Jake Bentley come back too soon?
Could be. And a lot of that could be psychological, even when you're not confident in your own body. But probably, as long as he didn't irritate and aggravate his injury, he probably will be mentally stronger for it, would be my guess. Because I know Nick Saban is one who talks about playing through injury as long as you're not worsening the injury, if you're just dealing with pain. And so he could be a mentally stronger player for it. But sure, that's going to be the obvious question mark. Is did he come back too early from that?
Right. We will find out in the next coming weeks. South Carolina, pretty tough SEC schedule. Moving on, Missouri heads to Tuscaloosa to take on number 1 Alabama. Alabama, a 39-10 winner. I believe the spread on this game was 28.5, and of course they win by 29. They cover there. Missouri never really able to get a whole lot going in this game. We thought this might be a little bit closer with the first number in Alabama's score not being a 4 or 5. Obviously, you're thinking a little bit of a letdown. Missouri's not a bad team. We've talked about them throughout the year so far, and what they're able to do on offense and everything. Just couldn't really get it ever going against the Bama defense.
Yeah, holding Drew Lock to 1 touchdown. That's impressive. Mm-hmm. And the other thing we have to ask ourselves, Tua went out in this game with an injury. They didn't send him back in. So we had Jalen, a fine quarterback. But the question is, and Tua's all right. They said it's a kind of a nagging injury that he has, but it does not affect his play, and they expect him to be close to 100% for Tennessee this Saturday. But had Tua remained in the game, would we have seen that 4 or 5 number in front of their score?
That's always debatable. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is more than capable of leading the offense.
And he did well.
He's done throughout the year and everything. When your starter goes down like that at times, I know the initial gut reaction is to, pull back on the reins a little bit. Alabama's so good that when they pull back on the reins, you can't tell a difference. Um, we talk a lot about the speed at receiver. I believe it was Henry Ruggs. I think the play actually ended up getting called back, but he received just a little screen pass on the outside and just jumped to the outside. I don't know that I've seen anybody run that fast down the sideline in a long, long time. So the speed that they continue to have is just absolutely phenomenal. It's phenomenal, but it's unmatched by anybody. It's unrivaled by anybody. Drew Lock, like you said, only 50% throwing, 2 interceptions, got his cage rattled a little bit as well. Tua goes out of the game. Tua 12 of 22, just a little over 50%. Not Tua's best game, but still way over 200 yards passing, 3 touchdowns and everything. So still a good day for Alabama's offense. Any need to be concerned at all for Alabama's offense?
I don't think so. When your starter goes down and you still win big, and I thought Jalen Hurts looked really good. I mean,
Right.
I saw several passes that looked Tua-esque in the way and that shows the development of Jalen, that this competition and losing his starting job has upped his own game, and they're both working to get better. Both these quarterbacks, terrific talents, and they're working to get better and polishing or sharpening each other like iron sharpens iron. So I was actually really pleased to see Jalen be able to come into a game, not just put in there when it was out of question, but put in there with Tua maybe out for the game, or that was the plan, and him being able to lead as the quarterback for the rest of the game.
Right.
And through his own touchdown passes, moved the ball, he looked very good. And so if you're an Alabama fan, it's always nice to know you have a backup who has got national championships under his belt and has proven he's improved, and he can come in and lead a game and win.
Still have full control of the offense. So mystery player, you ready? 3 receptions, 147 yards receiving. Who am I talking about?
Are we talking about an Alabama player?
Mm-hmm.
My first thought was Judy.
That would be correct. Jerry Jeudy continues to just put up monstrous numbers. Moving along to the nightcap, Ole Miss heads into Fayetteville to take on Arkansas. I picked Arkansas in the fourth quarter. This was a done deal, and Arkansas pulled in Arkansas.
In Fayetteville.
In Fayetteville, in front of that crowd. Some of the looks on some of those fans' faces when Ole Miss scored that last touchdown with under a minute to go. I've seen that look before. You feel for those people and everything because it really looked like Chad Morris had things going in the right direction. I still think they've got stuff going in the right direction. It's just not as quick as some other teams. Ole Miss's offense, we talked about that, still a very explosive offense. They still give up a lot. No quit in them. No quit in Matt Luke's team as Ole Miss makes a great comeback and escapes Fayetteville again with a 37-33 victory.
Yeah, and this was where I had a feeling the whole game that Ole Miss was going to come back. Something just didn't feel right, even when Arkansas was looking strong. And you said it well. Arkansas pulled in Arkansas, and I know they're disappointed right now. I think it will take time. I think they have the right man at the reins, but I also think that there's some issues, some personnel issues that will just take some recruiting and some maturity to overcome. That the previous administration, I think that they failed Arkansas in some key areas, and no matter who the coach is, the players play the game, and so I think it's going to take time for some development. But I think they have a good guy at the reins, and we'll see. But I think the future is brighter for Arkansas than the scoreboard would show.
So let's talk a little bit about the Ole Miss quarterback Jordan Ta'ama. 530 yards combined. He throws for 387, a very big day through the air. He's the leading rusher, again with 141 yards. Just what an incredible athlete! What a weapon to have on your team.
Definitely, and he reminds me.
Trivia, I like it.
He reminds me of a certain quarterback who played in a national championship game. I'm just going to say, well, there's a Longhorn quarterback. I just made it really easy for you.
Has the same build to him, the number 1, Vince Young.
Yes, thank you. And he's something to watch. It's amazing how when you have a quarterback who can see that a pass is not going to work and turn into a running back, what a weapon that is.
And the defense know that's what you're going to do. The defense have a spy just for that guy. Right. He's still able to make a guy miss.
What a weapon that is. And,
huge weapon.
Ole Miss will continue to use that, and they're going to win some more games.
Yeah. That is the end of our games from this past weekend. Again, some very great matchups, some great comebacks, some great wins for some SEC teams. So Week 7 in the books, and now on to Week 8. What do you say about some picks?
Yes.
Let's make some picks. Let's do it. All right. Starting us off here, the 2:30 game. Alabama, number 1 in the land, heads north to Knoxville to take on the improving Jeremy Pruitt and the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee has an opportunity to be in this game early. Tennessee's got a chance to really, can they come out? Can they get a couple of things moving? Can they, field goals? Obviously you don't want to kick field goals especially against Alabama. You want to turn them into 6 points. At the end of the day, it's too much Alabama in all 3 facets of the game. I think there will be a special team score in this game, whether it be a punt return or whether it be a kickoff return. Again, Alabama not afraid to bring it from 4 yards deep. Jeremy Pruitt, knowing these players, helped recruit these players, seeing the tendencies of these players, he'll find a way, and he'll know some things to keep Tennessee as far as the mindset goes, knowing kind of what to expect and everything. But at the end of the day, you just got deeper talent and you got better talent. Alabama big over Tennessee.
Yeah, I think so. Just too much Alabama, but an improving Tennessee, no doubt.
Tulsa heads to Arkansas. Tulsa 1-5 against Arkansas 1-6. This is an 11 o'clock game. Arkansas currently a 5-point favorite at home. What do you think?
Well, first of all, who cares? Second of all, Arkansas.
Gotcha. I'm going to say Tulsa on this one. Tulsa comes into Fayetteville, takes another one late in this game. Won't be the first time that a non-SEC school has come in this year and beaten Arkansas on their home turf. I've got Tulsa in a close one.
All right.
Moving on, Auburn makes the trip to the Grove to take on Matt Luke and the Ole Miss Rebels. Auburn coming in at 4-3 now. Ole Miss at 5-2. Auburn currently just a 4-point favorite. So odds makers thinking this is going to be close. Who do you like?
I like Ole Miss because I don't think Auburn I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball effectively enough. Ole Miss is an improving defense. They're not great. But offensively, I think Ole Miss is going to be able to move the ball against Auburn, and Auburn's going to have a lot of trouble stopping them. And so I think this really sets up well for Ole Miss, and I'm picking Ole Miss.
Auburn has trouble stopping Ole Miss. There's no question there. I think if Auburn can circle the wagons and come back together, and like they did, start out quick like they did against Tennessee, but not put Stidham in situations, where he's constantly having to get rid of the ball. Give him a little bit of protection, keep a tight end in, keep a running back in, 6-man protection, 7-man protection. He's got some good receivers. I think Auburn wins a close game. I'm going to take Auburn.
All right, we are opposed.
Moving on, Memphis heads to Missouri. Memphis 4-3 against a 3-3 Missouri team. Missouri currently a 9.5-point favorite.
I think Missouri. I think Drew Lock is going to have a good day, and probably depth-wise, Missouri's got a pretty solid edge. So I think Memphis hangs in there and plays tough, but Missouri pulls it out. 10-point game.
I think Memphis leads in this game in the fourth quarter. Memphis showed a lot against Central Florida last week. Memphis is a very good offensive team. When 2 good offensive teams going back and forth, who's going to make the critical mistake? Who's going to throw an interception at the wrong time? What's that other team going to be able to do with it? Having said that, Crockett's back full health now. They get Emmanuel Hall back for this game. Missouri finds a way to overcome a fourth quarter deficit. Missouri wins a close one. Vanderbilt heads to the Commonwealth for Kentucky, and this is going to be a 6:30 at night kickoff. Kentucky an 11-point favorite right now.
Let's say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3.
Kentucky. Hey.
Cheers.
I think Vanderbilt has got a lot of good stuff going. As I said last week, though, I think Vanderbilt's heart got left in South Bend. Just a little bit too much of it. Vanderbilt just hasn't played as well as they've needed to play to, convince me to pick them. Obviously, I'm not an expert or anything, but Vandy's still got self-proclaimed genius. Vandy's still got some holes. I do think they're going to score. I do think that this might actually be a higher scoring game. Kentucky's game plan is going to be very simple. They're going to run the ball. Benny Snell gets at least 25 touches in this game, if not more, from the Wildcat, because they are the Kentucky Wildcats. Terry Bowden, I think he makes enough plays. I think Kentucky jumps on Vanderbilt early. I think Vandy hangs around and is able to move the ball a little bit, but in the end, I think it's just a little too much Kentucky.
I think it's a lot too much Kentucky, but Kentucky either way.
All right. Moving on to our game of the week, the number 22 Mississippi State Bulldogs head into Death Valley to take in number 5. Man, LSU jumps back up to number 5. Take on the LSU Tigers. Currently, LSU a 6.5-point favorite. A much closer game by the odds makers. I'm going to make my pick first. This game is at night. Forget about it. LSU.
LSU. I totally agree.
I think the running game, Mississippi State will find ways to contain it, but they're not going to be able to stop it. Joe Burrow's going to make enough plays. The thing is what's Nick Fitzgerald on the other side going to be able to do against this good LSU defense? We saw Jake Fromm last week struggle against LSU. Nick Fitzgerald obviously coming in. Their emphasis is going to be try to run the ball as well. I think this is a lower scoring game than some people might think. But at the same time, I do believe that LSU gets the job done.
Yeah, I think LSU too deep, just too balanced everywhere, too stacked, too big, too muscular. And I think that they really have a coach who's on the dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and they'll be prepared. And I think they'll cover pretty easily. I'm seeing this as a 2-touchdown game. Yeah.
There you have it. That is your Saturday selection of games. Again, guys, please continue hitting the subscribe button. Keep commenting, letting us know. We love the feedback. Again, we love doing this, just talking SEC sports and everything. Something we're very passionate about. So, again, please continue to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.
This is Lee.
I'm Brandon.
This was That's What He Said. Catch us next week. Take care.
Peace.